Ann E. Butler, welcome to Built Not Born.
Thanks, Joe. I'm honored to be here.
And it is such an honor to have you on. For our listeners who may not be familiar with you and your work, who are you and what do you do?
So, Joe, I'm a retired undercover CIA officer. I'm also a mom of five, and I'm an author. What I do now, after I retired, I wrote my memoir. I decided to write my story. It's a real life story. It's about succeeding at two, but both very critical jobs: recruiting spies for the protection of our national security and being a mom of five, raising kids to be good citizens of the world. So now what I do is tell my story. I tell my story through my memoir, my book, and through podcasts and interviews like yours.
What I like to do, first off, so honored to have you here. Thank you for your service to our country. I'd like to discuss your amazing book, your memoir, Wife, Mother, Spy, An Extraordinary Life Filled with Ordinary Days. Such a cool title. Like it's such a double entendre. Oh my gosh, it's spy and ordinary days just don't go together. And just how does a mother of five deal with the emotional stresses, the family stresses, the moving, making sure the kids are raised right, making sure they stay safe, they execute their job at a high level. Before we do that, just want to start off with after 20 years in the CIA, what inspired you to finally share your life as a CIA officer with the public?
So good question, Joe, because my whole career was undercover. I never talked about my work. I never talked about what I did every day. I never talked about the intersection of my life and my career. Yet, when I retired, I realized I had this amazing life. I had this amazing career and an amazing family. So I wanted to leave a legacy for my kids. I wanted to write down things that we did, places we went, things we saw, people we met, so that my kids could remember it all. I also thought about when my mom passed away when I was in my 20s. And after she died, my dad wrote a memoir of his life with her and gave four copies to myself and my three brothers. And it was such a gift. And I realized, that is something that I would want to leave for my kids. So I started writing my thoughts. And I also wanted the kids to know what I went through emotionally, mentally, as I did this job and came home to take care of them. And I wanted them to know finally why it was so important to me, this why my job was so critical and why we made the decisions we made. So I was writing this all down, and I was talking to some people who said, more than your kids would be interested in this story. It's a very, very unique story, having this incredibly unique, difficult 24/7 job and a 24/7 job coming home. So essentially, that's why I decided to make it a story for the world to hear about.
You're juggling aliases, secret missions, and you're parenting, you're coordinating dinner after surveilling assets like this. So it's right out of a Clancy novel. And I'm not going to go in order. I just wanted to get some great stories out of this book. How
Sure.
about, can you tell the time where I was just floored? You went into labor during a clandestine meeting.
So, yes, there's because I have so many kids, and they every 2 or 3 years I was having another baby, so I was pregnant a lot. I was always working and doing something operational when I was pregnant. One of the stories that was just it highlighted the intersection of these two jobs I had is I was very, very pregnant, planning to meet a colleague of mine to arrange a planning session because together we were going to be meeting an asset. And this colleague, was going to be taking over my case when I was on maternity leave. So this happened to be a domestic meeting. And I went to the airport to pick my colleague up. Everything has to be planned to the nth degree, Joe. Not just my meetings with my assets, but meetings with colleagues, preparation takes so much time because you've got a lot at risk, a lot of play. You have to make sure that things are done exactly and that you are ready for if something goes awry or someone takes a right instead of a left. How do you react? Okay. Things had to be planned. Everything was planned. My meeting was scheduled with my colleague. We had arranged the whole meeting through our covert communication system at the office. I get to the airport to pick him up. I park my car, get out of my car, and I go in and my water breaks. So I had planned, I thought for sure I was gonna have a few more days. We were gonna work this whole meeting schedule out. We were gonna meet with our asset. It was gonna be a warm, we call it a warm turnover. The baby comes when the baby wants to come. Things had to be, I had to be flexible, adjust, pivot. That's one of the characteristics of a good officer is being able to adjust on the fly. So I was very uncomfortable, but went into the airport, met my colleagues, said things are going to change. We have to pivot to plan B. Got into the car, was ended up at the hospital a few, maybe about 30 minutes later, without my husband. Couldn't reach my husband because it was all coming at a last minute. Everything was happening at the very last minute. Had the baby, everything was fine. The problem was that my colleague, who didn't know what was going on, had to go forth and make the meeting. I was not available. That was one example of, but it was a fairly, it wasn't a dangerous situation because it was domestic and I was meeting a colleague. Another story that's in my book that also highlights the intersection of my personal life and my work is when I was very, very pregnant in Alias, traveling through Europe, I trained to meet an agent. Again, preparation was key, Joe. I had to spend, it took probably 2 or 3 days to get from my location to meeting the agent. Every minute had to be planned. When I was getting on a train, when I was getting off a train, where I was getting a rental car, how I was going to go down the path. And that agent meeting was scheduled for a specific time on a specific street corner on a specific day. Everything was planned, everything was set. It was going to work. I'd done this many times. This time, though, I was almost 9 months pregnant. I was on a train overnight, an overnight train. I was really concerned about meeting my agent on time because if that agent was left on a street corner and I wasn't there, things could go awry. She would be, it's a female, she could be in danger. She was out in the open too long. She wouldn't know what was going on. So I was very concerned about meeting my agent, but I was also concerned about going into labor in Alias. If I had gone into labor at that point, which could have happened, I would have had to go to the hospital in a different name, figured out how to pay for that hospital bill and how I would name the baby and how I would get back to my original location.
Wow.
Not to drag this out, but there's another issue that's really critical. Because I was an alias, I had to then get my own true name documentation back at some point. It was all planned, but if I missed that meeting, I would be in alias with a limited amount of money and no way to get back to my hometown. A lot of things had to line up.
Wow. The planning side has to be crazy. Like there has to be a plan A, plan B, plan C, and
Always,
plan O
always,
crap, right? You have to, right?
always, always. And the reason is because people's lives are at stake. You've got your agent waiting for a meeting. If that doesn't go according to plan, you've got their lives, their livelihood, their families at risk, and then you're at risk as well. So everything has to be planned in the event that the person's not there, there's a natural disaster, the
Hmm.
restaurant's closed, police are blocking the road.
Trains
You
running
have to be
late. Well,
ready.
like just like in Europe, trains are running late. Like we just got back from Italy. Trains are, you don't know if they're coming, they're not coming, they're late. I know the
Yep.
train's an hour late. What do you do? And I guess is there something like, I remember like we're with my kids in Disney World back in the day. We'd be like, if we get lost at 5 o'clock, we're going to the tower or something.
Right,
Like all heck
right.
breaks loose. Just at the very end, you just have that one spot you're going to meet way at
Yep.
the end, right? Something like that.
Yep. That's exactly what happens. So you have a a regular time for a meeting, you've got a plan B and a plan C. And if all hell breaks loose, there's going to be a time that agent can be at a certain spot, which you've already planned ahead, at a certain day of the month until you show up. You have to have that. You have to, and that also shows the agent that you're taking their life seriously, that you're
Mhm.
taking their concerns seriously, that this is an important meeting.
Could there be a better cover than a mom of five kids or like a pregnant mom of four kids and the fifth one on the way? I mean, what an unbelievable cover.
No one really expected what I was doing. I'd be walking through the grocery store, I'd be going to a reception, I'd be going to any kind of a function, and I was quite, no one really paid me any attention.
You spent time in Paris,
Yeah,
Sarajevo, North Africa, New York, Central Europe. When you were there, what was your so-called cover?
I was
When
a
you
diplomat,
did for the State Department?
correct,
Gotcha. So you worked for the State Department, basically.
correct.
And what's a
Until they fired.
diplomat do? What is it? Say you were a diplomat. What do diplomats
So
do?
a diplomat, you have to know the issues of the day. You have to know what's going on in the world. You have to know what are the important substantive issues between the country that you're in the
Okay.
US, because you're going to be promoting the US policy around
Okay.
the world.
Gotcha. So that was your cover. But
Right.
then so when you're, let's just say you mentioned that you were in Paris. So I guess at time you would spend time in the American embassy in Paris, right?
Correct.
So I guess the ambassador runs the embassy. I guess they know who you are, right? When they're there, they know who.
Yes. The
Okay.
ambassador does. Yes.
Okay. But besides that, does everyone else think you're just part of the crew or what?
So over time, people in the embassy usually figure out who you work for,
Okay.
but we don't highlight it. We want to stay under the radar. It makes it much easier. We're not trying to hide it from the Americans, but generally speaking, you don't want to highlight your affiliation with the CIA if you don't have to.
So let's go all the way back to the beginning. At what point in your career, like you graduate high school, you're in college, when did you realize you go, you know what? I'm going to give the CIA a try. I want to be a CIA agent. How did that happen?
I spent a couple years overseas. I spent my sophomore year abroad in France. I spent a year doing a graduate work in Belgium. I wanted to work and live overseas, Joe. That was it. I wanted to spend years overseas. I wanted to live overseas. So when I came back from college, came back from my graduate work in Belgium, I started looking for jobs in the international sector. I was looking at international banks. I was looking at nonprofit organizations that had a nexus overseas, anything that would get me in the international field. Plus, I spoke French. So that, I don't want to say limited me, but I wasn't looking at Asia, for example. I wasn't looking at a lot of places. I was looking where they spoke French. Ultimately, I applied to the CIA solely because I knew that work would take me overseas. And that's where I got in. It was a long process. And it really wasn't until I was in the agency after about a year and a half of waiting, interviewing, applying, that I realized I was in the exact place I wanted to be. It was exciting. It was fun. It was interesting. Every day was different. I was around amazing people doing amazing things. So it all worked out perfectly.
So when you go into the CIA, what's the training look like? Are you in
Ah,
Virginia? You're in
so
the
we
farm?
have
Is it called the farm or no?
yeah, it is. It is. We have a training facility in Virginia where we spend quite a bit of time. We also do a lot of training up in Northern Virginia at our headquarters. The training is intense, Joe. It could be anywhere from a year, the very initial training from could be 12 to 18 months, where we're learning how to be a spy, essentially. We're learning all the tricks, the trade craft, and we're learning how to get out there and recruit people. And we're learning about the issues. What's important? Why are we looking for somebody who has this kind of information or that kind of information? What kind of information do we need? And that's going to change depending on what the administration is looking for, what our National Security Council is looking for. So not only are we learning how to be a spy on the street, we're learning about substantive issues because ultimately that's what we have to do. We're collecting intelligence. Well, we're only going to collect intelligence that's that's relevant, that's
Mhm.
important. We're not going to just go out there and talk to people about silly issues. So we need to know substantively what's going on in the world. After the initial training, our entire career, we're learning maybe how to shoot a weapon if that's necessary in our where we're going. We're learning foreign languages. We're learning constantly practicing scenarios, how to elicit, pull out information from people. We need to train and retrain and stay really on top of these things. We learn about surveillance detection techniques. That those changed. Look at what's happening with technology.
Yeah.
It's much more difficult on the street to go from point A to point B without being detected. We have to keep up with that.
Yeah. It's got to be so hard now because there's a camera everywhere. Like
Oh,
there,
it's
every house has a
very
ring
difficult.
camera. Every ATM you walk by takes your picture. Like it is so hard to like not be seen. I can't even
Right.
imagine.
Or look at the smartphones. Look at the smart everything.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to go undetected. Look at a rental car. Now you rent a car, the car just sucks up all kinds of information about you, and that's going to be relayed to a company, or if you're maybe overseas, to a hostile government.
Your first assignment, right? So after you go through training, do they just tell you where you're going or do you get to pick? They give you options. How's that work?
Sure, you can apply to different jobs. You can apply, you look at the jobs that are available, you look at the places that are available, you can apply. But ultimately, it's the needs of the service.
Okay.
So you can try to get a job that you want, but it depends on the needs of the service. They may need more people here, they may need someone who speaks a particular language there. So ultimately, it's the needs of the service that determines where you're going to end up.
Did you ever see the movie with Colin Farrell, The Recruit? Did you ever see that movie?
I saw the beginning. I saw, I think, one episode. It was
Yeah.
okay.
That is
Not really my thing.
not really a thing. I got you. Okay.
When
Got you.
you do it for real,
Yeah.
Joe, then you kind of smirk at some of the things that are on
Yeah.
TV.
It's pretty fun when you like read an article. Say somebody will write an article about the company you work for, and you read that, and you can find like three or four things like that's not right, or that's overblown,
Yeah,
or that's nowhere near what the impact it was or isn't. And then you're like, wow, there's articles all over this paper that I don't know that in depth as like that's the only article I know in depth, the company I know in depth. Probably all these articles were so like off point because the one I knew about.
right.
Does that make sense? Because you see
Well,
that
and
movie.
a lot written about the agency, or you see on TV. People are excited about the cool stuff, the fast car chases or
Yeah.
the gunfights. The job in the agency as a case officer is exciting, absolutely exciting and interesting and different every single day. But there is regular job parts that you still
Yep.
have to do your accountings, you still have to write your reports,
Yep.
you still have to interact with people and speak to people and figure out. It's not always easy. Figure out what they're really thinking. Are they telling you the truth? That takes time. So it's not all shoot 'em up kind of stuff, but it's the strategy and the thinking about what you're going to do and how you're going to get into that person's mind. That's so exciting,
Yeah.
so amazing. And then when you get there and you actually convince that person to commit treason, it's amazing. It's amazing. And or when you find someone that has access to the information you're looking for, access to intelligence, you're looking for that nugget, that golden nugget about a piece of information that somebody really wants, and you find that person that has it, and then you get them to tell you about it. It's amazing.
That
Amazing.
is, and the one overlap I think where a covert CIA spy like yourself and maybe a sales person like myself, where the Venn diagram overlaps and it might mean everything, is the ability to build trust. Like
Oh,
how
huge.
fast can you get your person that you're trying to flip or get nuggets out of to trust you? Right. Just
Mhm.
as if we need a customer to trust a salesperson, like
Sure.
they don't trust you, no trust, no nothing in sales. They're not going to buy anything from you. But like as a what's the two questions? One, the importance of building trust,
Yep.
and you have any best practices on how to build trust? Can you share any nuggets that you can glean out that the average person can use in their daily life?
So, Joe, that people have used that analogy quite a bit. That the work that we do is very often like a sales job, sales work. Because just like you said, to reiterate, you have to establish trust to get that person to be willing to spy for you. They have to trust you. They have to trust that you're going to keep them safe. They have to trust that you know more than they do about how to keep them safe. They have to trust that you are genuine. And going back to how do you get that? You have to show that you're genuine. You have to really make them think that you're their friend. Now, I had a boss once tell me we don't have any friends in this business. But boy, oh boy, you better make sure that your asset or your developmental, the person you're trying to recruit, does think you're their friend. And you have to be genuine. And they're going to see right through you
Yeah.
if you're not. You also have to be consistent and you have to show up when you say you're going to show up. For example, we talked about that meeting, and I was so worried about meeting that agent at a certain time. If I wasn't there, that would just degrade the trust that that person had in me. So it is essential, especially when you think about what you're asking them to do. You're asking them to put their life in jeopardy, their family's life in jeopardy. You have to be convincing about why it's so important that they do that.
Yeah. You dealt with a whole bunch of people that are in oppressive countries that if they get caught,
Of course.
it's done. Their life's over. I can't even imagine what happens to them, right? And then they have to trust you enough to commit that treason where like they have to have so much faith and trust in you, right?
Right. Now, I would also argue that very often people who are going to commit treason, that there's something in them that they're almost there. Your job as a case officer is to pull them over the line. It's not easy because they're going to come up with a lot of defense mechanisms of why they shouldn't do it. So if you're good at your job and you find you're able to spot somebody who has the potential, personality wise, and the access, and then you're able to literally pull them over the edge. That's a real art. It's an art.
Oh, it's got to be art, science, everything together. It's so fascinating. Just finishing up on the training sides, I
Yeah.
always find so interesting. Did they ever throw you in a fake prison or throw you in the middle of the woods and like you got to get out, like fun stuff like that or crazy
So
stuff
at
like
the
that?
very beginning, the early part of our training, they did in fact do exactly that. It's not like we're Marines or we're special forces and they're trying to train us in that in case it really happened. It's more to show us that we're able to pick ourselves back up, that we're resilient enough to keep going, that we don't panic. So we're not trained at the level of special forces by any means, but those times that we're in the woods and we're trying to get out of the woods or we're thrown into a jail cell, it's not going to be for more than maybe half a day or a day. There's also a lot of other training where we are having to, for example, be in an office and all kinds of priorities are coming our way. There's reports to write, there's briefings to the ambassador, there's meetings with agents, and we have to determine which is most important. And we've got all these pressures. People's lives may be at risk, or our families' lives may be at risk. And we're having, how do we, maybe there's an evacuation that we're having to plan. How do we handle all that? So there's testing us, training us for really being able to keep going when things are very, very difficult and make decisions quickly and effectively. And that's something you just get by practicing over and over and over again. So, and that kind of training, as I said, goes on through our whole career, our whole
Mhm.
career.
Another word that you brought up preparing for this, listening to other interviews you're on in NBC and CNBC, I love the term the bump, the planned
Yeah.
bump,
Yep.
right? And it's
Do it
I
all the
found that
time.
fascinating. Could you speak to
Sure.
what that is?
Sure.
And it's so
So
amazing.
that, so there's somebody that we want. We find a person we want to meet, maybe recruit. We'll have to see if that person's got the right characteristics. We want to we find somebody, how do we interact with that person? Do we just start a conversation? How do we do that? We do that. It's called a bump. We find a time, a place where we just happen to be next to that person. Again, it's all strategy, it's all planning, preparation. I find somebody, Joe, I want to meet you. I think that you might be somebody of interest to me. I'm going to find out exactly where you are, when you're there, what the circumstances are. Are you by yourself? Are you with your family? And I'm going to and it's not just me by myself. I've got a whole team, our whole office. We're going to create a scenario that would work. Maybe it's you're waiting for a train. I'm going to find out you're going from point A to point B by train. Maybe I'm going to sit next to you on the train. Maybe I'm going to be at the stop when you end. Maybe I know where you're going shopping and I just happen to be in the store at the same time. It's all about first finding that person that we want to meet. Then it's about what is that person doing where I can cross paths with them. And it may not be that I'm the perfect person to, maybe it's somebody, maybe you're at a gym and it's going to be somebody who wants to work out and maybe is in the same situation as you are. We have to find the right person to make that bump. Once that contact is made, then I don't want to say it's easy after that, but that's the main, that gets you over the hump. You talk to that person, interact, and all I want out of that bump is a second meeting. I'm going to meet you. It might just be for 30 seconds, maybe a minute. We'll talk. And oh, I'm going to arrange to see you another time. It's all I need. Once that contact is made, then it's easy after that.
Wow. So say you wanted, for some reason, wanted to interact with me, and I was taking a flight to California 3 weeks from now. Your team would be able maybe to put you on the plane right
Oh,
next to me.
yes, Joe, that's easy. That's easy.
And you're just sitting right next
What's
to me on the
not
plane
easy,
for 5 hours.
what's
Wow.
not easy, and I guarantee, Joe, in less than 5 minutes, I would get you telling me a lot about yourself. If
Really?
I was really interested in you and I knew that you had access to intelligence, because that's the main thing,
Mhm.
you have access to some kind of something that I want. I will get that out of you. And again, this is an art. It's called elicitation, pulling that information out of you. I'd be able to get a lot of information.
Wow.
Then we
And,
go
and
from there.
and we all been to parties like how much do people like talking about themselves? Like,
Oh,
oh my gosh, like
try it.
we'll
Try
go
it.
out, like my wife and I will go out and great people, amazing people. It'll be 90-10. They'll talk about like they'll ask one
Of course.
question and talk for an hour. You know what I mean? And it's just
Yep.
crazy.
Yep.
People love to
That's
talk about
that is
themselves.
that is human nature. That is
Yeah.
human nature. And if you're trying to get some information from somebody for to possibly recruit them, it's really not that hard. At the same time, though, you have to make sure that you're giving maybe a nugget now and then to keep them talking,
Hmm.
but not giving away very much information about yourself.
Yeah,
That
no,
too is an art. That too,
that is
keep
such an
them
art.
interested. Keep them interested, but don't give up very much information on your own.
One of the seminal events in your 27-year CIA career, 9/11. Got to ask, where
Mhm.
were you?
Yeah.
What was it like? What was going on?
So I can't say the location exactly, but I was in Central Europe, and so obviously it was the afternoon, almost the end of the workday, and we're in our office, and I was actually working in the embassy. My husband was working on the other side of the city, doing our thing, and all of a sudden I was at my desk, my office, and everybody started running to the conference room, and it was a while ago. So the conference room had these TVs up in the corners. They were hanging from the ceiling, and everybody was watching. What's going on? So I get in there. You follow the crowd. Everybody's running to the conference room. So I ran to the conference room, and that's when we saw the first plane hit. And then I ran back to my desk, called my husband, and it was that at that point that the second plane hit. And he had not even seen what was going on. He then turned the TV on in his office. We then everybody left the embassy. We went back home, got our kids. That was the main thing. It was a change. Being overseas, Joe, was much different than being in America at 9/11. We were told, required literally to be kind of not raise the US flag too much, not to talk about it. Whereas in America, everybody was, you know, gelling together. Everybody
Yeah,
it was all about being pro-American and
yeah.
showing our strength. But overseas, uh, on the contrary, we had to kind of maintain a low profile because we didn't want to highlight that we were American. And our children were at an American school. And it's the day after, there were local police force with AK-47s and guard dogs outside the American school. It was really traumatic for the kids, traumatic for us. But then, because of who we were and who we worked for, the next day we were at it. We were like all hands on deck, going after perpetrators.
Wow, that's remarkable. Because I remember that I was just a few years out of college when that happened, and I just remember everyone had flags everywhere. Everybody
Yeah,
had flags pasted to their windows, flags on
right.
their cars as they drove through the street. Like it was the whole thing was a Fourth of July parade for a couple weeks after that, right? Like
Yeah,
that you know,
yeah.
wow. But you had to keep a low profile where you
Oh,
were.
overseas, we were told the embassy was well protected. The schools, they said the school was well protected, and we were told not to highlight that we were American.
How soon, like after that, being in the agency, how soon did you guys realize who it was who did it? Was it instant or did it take a while?
No, no, it took a while. It
Did
took a
it?
while. So it was everybody was focused on the counterterrorism target. And the CIA, we are depending on what's going on in the world. That's what we're focused on. Now, that's not only the only thing we're focused on, but we were only focused on counterterrorism for a number of years, and that
Hmm.
was every person that we talked to. We were looking for another nugget. We were looking for somebody who had access. Very different operating environment because we couldn't get into the terrorist cells. We're, you know, a pregnant woman isn't gonna, a pregnant Caucasian woman is not gonna be able to get into the terrorist cell to infiltrate. So it took another level. We had to find people that could somehow get access to the terrorist cells. It was a we weren't ready. It took us a while to really figure out how to do all that.
Wow. No, no, amazing. It's just an amazing time.
It was very, very different. It
It
was a
crazy.
difficult time.
It changed the fabric of America. I mean, there's pre 9/11 and there's post 9/11.
Yeah,
All you do is get
yeah.
on a plane in 2000 compared to get on a plane 2002. It's like completely two different things,
You're
right?
right. You're right. You're
How about
right.
you? Speaking of your family, throughout your career, your children believed you were a diplomat. I see a painting was the only way your oldest learned that you were not. Can you tell the story about how a painting
Sure,
blew
sure.
your
So it
cover
was
with your oldest daughter?
sure. It's actually it was a mosaic that my
Okay.
boss had given me, and it was in our house. My oldest daughter was good friends with the daughter of my boss, and she was at our house, and she said, "Oh, we have that same mosaic. Your mom works for my dad, and they both work for the CIA." And my daughter thought it didn't really affect her that much. I don't think she realized how impactful that is. That meant she was in middle school. Didn't tell the rest of her siblings though, and they only found out years later when I retired. And I told them the night before we went into into headquarters, into my retirement party, because I wanted them to be able to come to headquarters, walk across the seal, and be in the CIA headquarters. So I sat them at the dinner table and said, "Okay, here's where we're going tomorrow for mom's retirement." And they were duly impressed. I mean, they were impressed. It was very unique, kind of a cool thing for them. But up until that point, I was just their mom who went to work every day.
Isn't it amazing how unimpressed at times kids can be with their parents too? It's so crazy.
I
Like
know.
again, my wife and I are not special at all, but we grind, and she has her career, I got mine, and we have our little victories and wins throughout the
Sure,
professional career. And you
sure.
tell your kids, and like something you worked on all year to close an account or win an award, or you
Yes.
win it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, cool, I got to be in practice in 10 minutes." Like it's
Yeah, I
like
know. I know.
they don't
I
care at
know.
all. Like they
Here
don't
we
care
are.
at
We're
all.
saving the world in our own little, all of us in our own little way, and they are oblivious.
They don't care. We're
What time
so
is
not
dinner?
cool.
What time is dinner, Mom?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. What are you cooking for dinner? Like, okay, thank good job with that 27-year secret CIA career. So how cool is that? What a pull off that was. You hit a 27-year covert CIA operative career to your kids, to the day who live with you, to the
Yeah.
day
Yeah.
before you retired and you went into the CIA headquarters. That's
Right.
wild.
And I think what's interesting looking back is that I was gone a lot. Not so much, I had short trips travel. I would try not to be gone too long, but I would be gone during the day, home for dinner, gone at night, back home late, start the whole thing all over again. So it wasn't like I was working a 9 to 5 job, or maybe at 2 o'clock I'd go to their parent teacher conference because then I was going to go back out and meet an agent right after that. Or I was very often I used my kids for play dates that I thought they would definitely want to meet with this kid to play with, but I was really interested in meeting the father or the mother and having a conversation. So I'd have to arrange these fake play dates with my kids. But they never really caught on to any of that. I mean,
Wow.
they just kind of went along with it. Okay, whatever. Mom's here, mom's not here.
Wow.
But
A brain.
that's why I needed a supportive spouse. So that is it's important in this job because I was coming and going all the time
Yeah.
to have a supportive spouse who understood what I was doing.
So, from my understanding, your husband knew you worked for the CIA, but it
Right.
was almost like maybe a doctor with a HIPAA. Like you're not talking about patients and their
Right.
name and who you're treating and what they're wrong with them, but like they know you're a doctor and you're doing surgeries, like something
Right.
like that, right?
He knew what my mission was. He knew how important it was to me. He didn't know who I was meeting with. He didn't know where I was. I could be gone for several days. He had no idea. But he knew if he had to get a hold of me, there was an official way to do it. It was kind of a long process. But if there was an emergency, he could figure out, he'd be able to talk to somebody. But other than that, he never knew. He didn't know when I was coming back. I could be out late at night. He just kind of rolled with it.
That's so cool. You could tell it's a strong marriage. That is a strong marriage there. How about potentially your job being tough on your kids? Question.
Yeah.
I know people that in the business world that they're high achievers. They move every 5, 6 years to a
Yeah.
different role, different state. Even I have some friends that move to different countries. Very hard on the kids, especially like third, fourth grade. They have their friends. You move yeah,
Yeah.
3. They're there 3 years. Get a new set of friends. You move again. How hard was that on your kids?
It was tough, Joe. It was tough, but it's all they knew. So,
Mhm.
yes, we moved every 2 or 3 years, and every 2 or 3 years, they had to say goodbye to their friends. My husband, too, had to say goodbye to his friends and his colleagues and get a new job. The kids, I'll tell you what really helped a lot was that I had a big family. I have a big family. So,
Mhm.
the 5 kids, all 7 of us would start together in a new city. Nobody knew anybody. I'd be off doing my work. The kids would have each other. They'd be playing, running around the house, playing in the garden. Then over a year or two, they would make their friends. They would feel better about their school. And then we would move again. And it was
Wow.
just us. So we really did have, I think as a result, we're a very close family. Even now, the kids are all adults, but they needed to rely on each other. And I think that was a big plus.
And I think I remember hearing you telling, I think when you were on CNBC, now you see like your kids, when they go to Europe, they have friends to meet up or people from Europe
Oh,
come over and they're connecting with their friends throughout your tapestry of
also
your career, right?
the whole world. Yeah, they've got friends all over. And they're very adaptable.
Yeah.
I mean, they not all of them want to live overseas, but they can get on a plane and go anywhere and be comfortable and
What a gift.
they're very flexible, adaptable. They're great kids.
No, that's a gift. It might be a little tough going through it, but it's like wine. You have like the tough circumstances, the wind, the rain, and you have the best wine. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
right.
really good. That is excellent. How about this? I just wrote a note down. Back in the day, I watched a series called The Americans. Did you ever see that
Yeah,
one? What'd you,
I did.
what'd
Saw
you
the
think of
whole
that one?
thing.
Where's
I
that
would
on the accuracy scale of 1 to 10?
So I would say the Americans, because Joe, that was also back in the 80s,
Yeah,
right? It
yeah.
was kind of set in the 80s, which is, kind of when I was working. So it is so you've got the phone cords, the old fashioned phones, and
No.
that. So I think but what they did was, in fact, pretty accurate. I mean, it was really the traditional spy stuff, the old school spy stuff. It wasn't high tech. It was meeting assets in the dark. Yeah, there was a little bit of, a few more killings than I would think would be normal. But they were also that was the deep undercover Russians that were in America. So that was kind of the knots, the non-official cover. They were at far more risk. They were definitely the sleepers,
Mhm.
essentially.
I remember one episode, they're in like, they talked their way into like Casper Weinberger's house, like the defense secretary. Like it was crazy. Like you're sitting
Yeah.
even though it's fake, I'm sitting there like I'm on edge. Like it's a great show when you know it's fake and you know it happened 30 years ago and you're still like, you have like that pit in your stomach. How crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think the producer, the executive producer, was a CIA officer.
Really? Okay. Now, that was
Yeah.
a great,
So,
okay. I
so
was
that
wondering,
provides some accuracy. Yes.
that interesting. Your book is amazing. If someone reads your book and they go,
Mhm.
you know what, I want to go deeper in this. I need another great read of a real profile that really understand what this
Mhm.
is like. What book would you recommend?
So, Joe, I have to say that there, my story, there are a lot of books written by some women, some who retired, and they write about the training and they write about the work and they write about their contacts. But there are no books out there written by someone who has
Mm,
this job and is a mom of
yeah.
five kids. There is nothing like that. And that's one of the reasons people encouraged me to actually publish the book because it's unique. I thought it was just, yeah, I'm going to work, coming home, being a mom, but there is nothing else like it. And there are very, very few women who, if any, frankly, who make it up the ranks and have five kids at the same time. So what it meant was going overseas, having a baby, moving, having another baby, moving, having another baby, recruiting these spies all at the same time. There's nothing else like it. It's very unique to see to have a mom with five kids and having to come home and make dinner every night and then go out and recruit spies. There just isn't anything like it.
What a unicorn. And that's such an amazing cover. A mom of five
Yeah.
kids. That is such a great cover. Like it's, yeah, there might have been, and I haven't seen the show in a long time. There was someone like that on the Americans. There was someone where there was a person like that on the Americans. It was like it was a woman and you're like, you thought she was just a woman in a restaurant and she turned out to be one of the head agent or something for the Soviets or something like
That's
crazy,
funny.
crazy, great. I mentioned human element a couple moments
Yeah.
ago. My question.
Yeah.
Technology has gotten, here's another way I think spycraft and sales overlap.
Yep.
There's a ton of technology. There's AI, satellites, cameras everywhere, surveillance equipment. But I think in sales and in spycraft, there's always going to be the human to human interaction. What do you
Yep.
think?
100%. Joe, you're 100% on point. How do you know what's going on in your mind, in somebody else's mind? You only get that from talking to that person,
Mhm.
spending time with that person, and asking the right questions. You're not going to get it from technology. That's why being a case officer, the director of operations, the clandestine service will never go away. We have our ups and downs over time, depending on the administration, depending on the director. The role of a clandestine case officer will never go away. You always need someone who's actually with that person to be able to determine what are you really telling the truth? Do you really have access to that piece of information? You're only going to get that from human interaction.
Yeah, that human to human interaction will always be there at some point. I mean,
Absolutely,
because
100%.
it's just, yeah, it is. I mean, the technology helps, and you might need less humans at some point, but you're going to need that human to human interaction. That there's nothing like person to person,
Sure.
right?
You're going to have spy satellites forever, but the that spy satellite's not going to tell you what you're thinking.
Yeah, it's amazing. Who were the CIA directors you work under? Do you recall? Like who were
Yes,
the
I started under Casey. Oh,
whoa?
he was great. He was great. It was a great time, the late 80s, great time for CIA. We were doing some great stuff, recruiting a lot. And then George Tenet was another one I worked
Mm,
under. He was great.
mm.
Had some that were not so great. Petraeus was not great. Brennan, not so good. But again, with like with anything, with any leader of any agency, you're gonna have some good, some bad. Gina Haspel was the first woman
Mm-hmm.
to she was not too long ago. I didn't work under her. I was a contractor by that time, retired. But she was very, very good. Gina Haspel was a officer, a case officer herself. She worked through the director of operations. She knew exactly what was important and what wasn't. And because of that, she's a great director.
Yeah. Bob Gates, he's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
and I guess at some point before that was way before you. It was George H.W. Bush was the CIA director, right?
he was. Yep,
Yeah, I
yep,
think
that's
he
fine.
mentioned in one of his memoirs that was his favorite job ever. But
Of
but
course,
the hardest job he couldn't tell anyone about anything. Like he
I'm
couldn't
not
talk about
surprised.
it at home.
I'm not surprised he said it was his favorite job. It's the best job. I mean, director is that's a tough job, but CIA working as a case officer, it's the best job,
Yeah. And
greatest
what,
job.
and total random CIA question. When you see the CIA, you go over that symbol, you see that on the ground that's very iconic in movies, but then you see the stars on the wall. What does that
Yeah.
represent? I see the star.
The stars on the wall are CIA officers who were undercover who died in the line of duty.
Wow.
It's quite meaningful. It's obviously they're still they died undercover, so they're no one really knows who they are, and it can't be told. Their names cannot be out there in the public. But it's a way that we remember our own fallen.
Wow. And that is that right by the symbol on the ground? Are they near each other? Okay. I think I saw that.
It's in the main entrance, yes.
That's pretty powerful. And that's the first time your kids knew. That's the first, like, that was the first day your kids
That's right.
realized, wow, that you walked through there. That
Great.
is
Yeah.
powerful. Awesome. Now, I appreciate you sharing that. And what I'd like to do is switch over to a part of an interview we call Share Your Secrets, like you didn't have enough secrets. And so our listeners can get to know you a little bit more as a person. I
Sure.
mean, secret agent, mom of five, put all over the world to help the United States and keep it safe. When you needed to clear your mind and recharge your body, what did you do?
I ran a lot. I used to run.
Really?
It was the time that I was by myself, and it was before iPods or before any of that. I was running, just thinking a lot. So for many, many years, I would run. It was my time away from the craziness of the house. Plus, I could also run when I was traveling. I could run anywhere. I trained for a marathon. Ran one. I've only run one marathon. It was in Paris, actually. Have you run any marathons,
I
Joe?
did 5K, so it's not my limit.
Well, a marathon, but it was a great. I mean, obviously, it's great to run a marathon in a great city, but that was also. I have another little story, not to get off track. It's also my book, but anyway, I used to run a lot. I used to run a lot, and I would use that time to think and just kind of think about what I was doing that day. Think it was just a quiet time. But I was training for the marathon. It took about a year to train. It was all set. Again, planning, preparation. I had everything planned for that weekend. I was going to fly to Paris from where I was located on Friday, run the marathon, rest on Saturday, run the marathon on Sunday. I had family coming in from America. Everything was set. Then earlier that week, an agent sent in a message via covert communication system that he wanted to meet. He was coming into the where I was, the city, and he wanted to meet unexpectedly. It was a non-scheduled meeting. He wanted to meet on Friday. But I was leaving Friday. I was planning to go to Paris to run a marathon that I've been training for a year. Okay. I knew I had been meeting with this agent for a number of probably a year and a half by then. So I knew we knew each other. I knew he was coming to the city for his own business purposes and wanted to meet. And I knew it was probably an administrative meeting. He wanted to swap out his laptop. Not a big deal. My colleague was available and I knew he would do it. He also spoke the agent's language. Great. My colleague said, sure. Then my boss came in and said, absolutely not. You will take that meeting. You are responsible for that agent. You will do it. You are not going to just pass it off to your colleague. But Joe, I was getting ready to run a marathon. I had trained. I was set. I had the flights. But at the same, so this goes back to that whole intersection. Here I was like, this is what I wanted to do for myself.
Yep.
And yet I've got this mission to meet this agent. My boss was right in the end. I did meet my agent. And I just adjusted everything, flew up to Paris on Saturday, ran the marathon. I had less time to rest, ran the marathon, ran it in the time that I wanted to run it.
Nice.
And I had my meeting with my agent on Friday. But again, it was just, wow, here I was wanting to do something for myself on a personal level.
Yep.
The mission came first.
That job looks like it just doesn't shut off. And when
It
it
doesn't.
raises,
It never does. Never
wow.
does.
We spoke about a lot. We spoke about your going into labor during a meeting, 27 years in the CIA, your kids finding out the night before, living all over the world, secret missions, having a purse with a secret compartment that conceal a Glock, all of that. And if there's one lesson that you could pass
Mhm.
on to everyone listening, what would that lesson be?
Joe, I would say you've got to take advantage of opportunities that come your way. I mean, I had this incredible opportunity to serve our country and do this amazing mission. And I had this opportunity to raise this great family. Take advantage when you have these opportunities. Not, it's going to make your life extraordinary. Take advantage of opportunities that come your way. Persevere, even though it's not always easy. Two full-time 24/7 jobs, it wasn't easy, but by pushing, by persevering, by remaining focused, look at the opportunities I had. They were great. They were extraordinary. And the last, I would also, if I could just say one more, is
Mm.
just be grateful for those opportunities. Take advantage, push yourself to pursue those opportunities, but be grateful for even having them. I mean, how many people can have this great job and then come home and have a great family, sit around the table, dinner? Be grateful for those things.
I
Be
love it.
grateful for any opportunity you have.
Take advantage of the opportunities and then be grateful for those opportunities that are in front of you. It's fantastic. Two fun lessons, and to wrap this up, we asked this of all the guests. First one, Ann Butler, if you could spend the day with anyone, famous or not famous, alive or dead, who would you spend the day with?
Winston Churchill.
Nice.
He's an amazing, amazing man. I mean, I haven't read all of his autobiography or all of his biographies. There's a lot written about it. But Joe, have you, I mean, this man was, he lost the election and then became prime minister again. And he was a painter. Oh,
Yeah,
he was a writer. He was a tough guy. And he ran a country in the worst possible time of history. There are amazing people out there, amazing people who've done amazing things. I could sit and we could talk for hours about just with a long list. But Winston Churchill, I've always been drawn to because he did all kinds of amazing things. And I think, how can he do all that? I mean, you've only got 24 hours in a day.
yeah,
How did he do all that he did running a country and then paint and write on the side?
amazing.
And he had a family.
Yeah, I'm sure you've been there. Have you been to the Churchill War Rooms in London? Have you
Yeah,
been there? How
yeah,
amazing
it's
is that?
amazing.
They go in that
Amazing.
bunker. Crazy,
Yep.
isn't it? It's so crazy. It's, I mean, writer. He was a bricklayer, a painter. Like
Everything. Yes, I
great. And
mean,
his speeches, like it's still you can listen to his speeches now, like
yep.
fight on the fields, fight in the streets. Like you just want to go tackle someone when you hear him speak. It's crazy.
How does one person, how do they have so much energy and smarts about them that they can just keep on going? Amazing.
And he was funny too. Like he would have the funniest lines. There was one like one of the biographies I was reading on him. He was like he was in Miami and he went skinny dipping like Mr. Prime Minister, you can't do this. You can't the Prime Minister of England can't skinny dip in
Yeah.
Miami even though we blocked it all. People can see you with the binoculars. And he's like if they got binoculars, they deserve to see what they see if they're trying that hard. Like it's like he's so funny. He's amazing. That's a great one. All right, last question. Ann Butler, if you had to get a quote or a saying tattooed on your body,
Mm.
what would that quote or motto say?
I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to go back and say it would say be grateful.
Be great. Be
But Joe,
grateful.
it's because I need that tattooed on because I think that is so important and I don't say that to myself enough. I'll be in a some kind of funk mood and then I need people around me to tell me that. So if it's tattooed on my body, I'll see it every single second.
Oh, that's so great. I think be grateful is about as good as a spot as any to wrap this up. And what I like to do is end with a really great quote I love from your book. This is from Ann E. Butler's book, her memoir, Wife, Mother, Spy, An Extraordinary Life Filled with Ordinary Days. And I quote, I want people, especially women, to realize that with a bit of tenacity, some sacrifice, hard work, and focus, they too can have it all: a fulfilling, important career and a wonderful, gratifying personal life. I also want people to remember to be grateful for the opportunities they have because these opportunities can turn into extraordinary moments. The guest is Ann E. Butler. The book is Wife, Mother, Spy, An Extraordinary Life Filled with Ordinary Days. And I'd like to thank you for your service to our country. Thank you for joining us on Built Not Born. And if people are looking for you, your book, where you are online, where can we find you?
My website is ANNEBUTLER, Annie Butler .com, AnnieButler.com. What? Yeah, it's my website. And then, or they can find the book at Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
Are you on any
AnnieButler.com.
social media?
Oh,
Every,
Instagram,
okay.
Facebook, LinkedIn, you name it.
All right. What I'll do. That
Which
is
is
so great.
interesting because I never was, and
Yeah.
my daughter handles it all for me because I don't know how to do it.
Gotcha. Okay. What I'll do is I will put all of them in the show notes on how to connect with you. I'll put your
Oh, sure.
website, the
Great.
Amazon link, your Instagram. But, and I'd like to thank you for joining us. So great to connect with you. Your story's
Thanks, Joe.
amazing. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for your service and wish you continued success in all you do.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Joe. It's been a real honor to be on your show. I appreciate it.
Oh,
Thanks for your
thank,
time.